You're listening to DraftKings Network.
This is the Dan Levator Show with the Stugotz podcast.
You've heard me say before, Stugotz, there are certain sentences or headlines that will get me to continue reading. I saw one last week, just a sentence that read, "A person has died at the $2 million home of Titans cornerback Caleb Farley after his house exploded." Just a sentence that is going to get me to continue reading. This one, oddly enough, apocalyptic as it is, biblical as it is, doesn't keep me reading. Until now, Ron DeSantis has not felt the need to come back to Florida to publicly address a handful of other emergencies his administration has faced this summer, including outbreaks of leprosy and malaria, a deadly spree of flesh-eating bacteria, record-breaking temperatures off Florida's shore that have threatened delicate coastal ecosystems, and a teetering property insurance market.
There's lots of those that he can't really fix, though, right? Like, what is he going to do about the temperature?
Doesn't even mention that a hurricane is coming at present to Florida. The state of the climate, Stugotz, is so insane, so obviously biblically apocalyptic. You've got Canadian fires. Half of Canada's on fire. You've got California, which just had its first hurricane and an earthquake at the same time, is somehow in a state of emergency. I didn't even know this was possible. A state of emergency for both drought and flood.
How?
Both drought and flood, because the water can't be collected. It comes down so quickly and so much. You've got both going on at the same time. You've got Washington State had the worst air pollution, breathable air climate in the world. And you've got hot tub temperatures in our oceans that are a ticking time bomb for these tropical storms that are going to speed up. And I think that we're going to start having weather events that don't look like any weather events that we've seen before, that we have to start thinking about all of this stuff differently.
You need a different name for that, because that sounds fun. Weather event. Let's go to a weather event.
Right.
Play the happy...
Something you pay for.
Play the happy music.
Die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. The world seems to be falling, and we're all wondering why. Let's turn on the news and find out how we're gonna die. There ain't no sense in stalling, no reason not to cry. Let's turn on the news and find out how we're gonna die.
We're going to start doing horrifying climate stats of the day. The heat index last week in Lawrence, Kansas was 134 degrees.
Yeah, but to Billy's question, what do you want DeSantis to do about it?
There's certain problems I wouldn't turn to him to solve, let's just say.
I stopped reading the sentence.
All right.
I stopped reading after that. I was saying, yeah, I know all of these things. I know everything that's happening here in Florida. I'm aware of it. I wouldn't keep reading after that. Thank you, Chris. I do appreciate that. We're going to have a celebrity start doing this for us.
I have some good news amongst all that bad news. Football is starting, Dan.
Yeah. Get ready for week one.
Yeah.
Get ready for week one, where CBS has the sideline reporter telling us how hot it is on the field in Miami. Just a bold prediction. We're going to have a lot of thermometers the first couple weeks of the year.
The Dolphins have fans going on their sidelines. Thank you.
Lucy, college football is your area of expertise. One of them.
Week 0 felt like a fart. I'm just going to say it.
Shut up.
I mean, the Notre Dame blowout game. I was watching Mercer and, what was it? Which Alabama? Something?
Someone didn't watch Hawaii Vanderbilt.
South Alabama versus Mercer.
It was awesome. It was great. Yep. I don't know what you're talking about. It was so awesome. There was a 0-yard punt this weekend. 0 yards.
There was a quarterback who threw the ball with his face mask behind his head.
Navy.
All right, I'm back.
Navy.
Awesome. That was Sam Hartman showed up with a necklace made out of his own ribs.
Explain more.
That was so sick.
Yeah.
We're so back.
Back for his 17th season as a college football quarterback.
Just minus one rib.
Is that Martinez kid still playing college football in Kansas somewhere?
Pros, I think.
If you tell me Bo
Not in
Nix
Kansas.
is still in college, I'm going to punch somebody.
You should go to New York because they have a giant billboard of him saying Bo for Heisman.
Adrian Martinez is on the Lions?
Yes.
With Dan Campbell?
Wait, I was joking. Bo Nix is still playing?
Yes.
It's a Heisman season
Oh
for
my
our boy.
God.
Yeah.
You weren't there. You weren't listening to the show last week. Lucy, I wanted to talk to you about something. I thought it would be funny if in his last few years at ESPN, if Stugotz, if you can turn down your computer while we're doing
I'll
the
try,
show,
yeah.
I'd appreciate it.
I didn't turn it up. I don't know who did that. It's weird. Who was here last week?
If you can help
Lewis.
us. Not
Does he know how to
Were
mute a
you not
computer?
here this week? Did you take my brother's passing to take more vacation? Is that
Well,
what
he
you
needed
did?
time to process.
Yeah, it hit me hard. I mean,
He was in Buffalo, remember, listening to the walls.
yep. That's where I was, giving you the scuttlebutt.
Did you just learn that he wasn't here last week? It's been an adventure. Jess is in Ireland.
Where's Tony?
Still,
He's in Europe for 3 weeks. More time than I spent when I had a kid.
I turned it down.
You turned what down?
The computer.
Jeremy got married while you were gone also.
Really?
A lot's gone on.
Huh.
Congratulations, Jeremy.
Tony took my honeymoon, apparently.
I thought that the last few years at ESPN, that Herm Edwards, every time he was talking on the screen, that they should have put in the graphic under him 2-22 in his last 24 games as an NFL head coach. He parlayed being good at television to getting an Arizona State job that he turned into a total mountain of shit. And nobody seems to care at all what happened at Arizona State with Herm Edwards. Lucy, tell the people what happened there.
I care quite a bit. So yesterday, Arizona State announced that they will be self-imposing a postseason ban this year, which is wild because the NCAA doesn't make you do that anymore. They're not like handing out postseason bans because when Herm Edwards was at Arizona State, he said, you know what? I'm not going to learn a single rule. That is not my prerogative. And he absolutely sent that home. Arizona State has so many recruiting violations coming their way. It's alleged to be worse than what we saw at Tennessee when they were handing out like McDonald's bags full of money. And so Arizona State's football program is pretty much buried right now. They're going to lose a ton of scholarships. They already have this weird postseason ban. And when Herm Edwards got fired after losing at home to Eastern Michigan, he basically got a job back at ESPN like the next day and has yet to address anything that's happened. No one has asked him a single question about what has happened.
So brutal for those seniors to learn yesterday. Hey, we're not going to be playing for a bowl at all.
5 days before their season starts, they learn they have no shot at a bowl.
I mean, were they gonna make a bowl? I mean, come on, what are we doing here?
Boca Raton Bowl.
I gave myself a bowl ban too. I mean, it doesn't really mean anything if I'm not going.
They probably were not, but I thought they made a really good hire with Kenny Dillingham. They had a better shot. They have a really talented quarterback. It was not out of the question, and it's wild because they didn't need to do it. Like, the NCAA was not going to punish all these players on the roster who weren't even there when Herm Edwards was.
What an exceptional grift, though. To work in such a shadowy, nobody cares about Arizona State football purgatory that you get to just have huge scandal, losses, failure, and you go right back to the job that you had before and don't take any questions. You go to work for a media company that then doesn't ask you any questions about the scandal that was left in your wake.
How many people watching ESPN when Herm showed up for the first day were like, oh, it's been a while since I've seen Herm. Where was he the last few years? Just not even knowing he had coached in college for a few years. Oh, look, it's Herm.
I don't even think that it was long enough that people noticed that he was gone. I think I was yeah, Herm's part of the show. Must be out this week, vacation.
While I was gone, I saw precious little. And by the way, I need to thank Izzy Gutierrez and Dominique Foxworth and an assortment of other friends during a time of terrible, terrible need who have come and made me feel very much loved in a lot of different ways. I remain heartbroken. I've apologized to you before and will continue to apologize for what the last year has done to me on this show because it has just been very hard to do, and I am not yet right and probably will not be for a while, Stugotz, because this kind of grief is exceptionally new to me, and it's not merely that I wake up every day feeling very sick when I am not sick. It's also that the grief has a physical weight to it. It feels like that exists in my stomach that reminds me, even when I'm laughing, that I am in a bit of pain. But I did see something while I was away that I thought is the coolest baseball play I've ever seen.
Really?
The coolest of any kind I've ever seen. The best celebration I've ever seen in baseball was Prince Fielder hitting a home run, landing on home plate, and jiggling as a walk-off, and all of his teammates that surrounded him fell over like bowling pins. It was like 24 guys fell on the field. But the Mariners, Stugotz, Julio Rodriguez, who was just so much fun to watch. It's got to be one of the greatest feelings in sports to jump over the fence and steal a home run. But he did it, and no one in the park knew that he had done it, and he took 20 steps with the ball nonchalant as if he had not caught the baseball. And so nobody in the ballpark, and the Mariners are exciting and fun for a lot of reasons, no one in the ballpark knew that he had the baseball because he didn't react the way that someone would react when they steal a home run from you, which is excitement. All he did was walk very casually with the baseball 20 steps and then just shows the baseball to his pitcher from the outfield.
Classic J-Rod. Was the guy still running around the bases thinking he had hit Homer?
I didn't see anybody but him because the camera was trained on him. I don't know what you consider the coolest baseball play that you have ever seen, but I didn't have a nominee better than that one. My only nominee would be the ball bouncing off of Jose Canseco's head for a home run.
I go Jeter. Hard didn't work out.
Hey, it's Mike. What are you looking most forward to this football season? Is it your fantasy draft party? Is it tailgating? Or just meeting up with friends at your local bar to catch the game? Well, what I'm looking forward to is all of the above. With a Miller Lite in my hand at just 96 calories a can, Miller Lite is the only light beer you'll want to celebrate with all season long. It's the only beer with a taste worthy of our national obsession, because what's the point of having a beer if it doesn't taste like, well, beer? It's only got 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12-ounce serving with a smooth taste and a crisp, clean finish. You'll get the taste that you crave without the calories. So this season, crack open a light beer that hits your taste buds so hard you can feel it in your heart and feel football in your soul. Make it Miller time all season long. Get Miller Lite delivered right to your door. Visit MillerLite.com/Dan, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
Don Le Batard.
Kensley Jansen. I got to be careful here. What did I just do there? Let me start again.
Stugotz.
He's the closer. Comes in, ninth inning, closes the game out. His name is Kenley Jansen. He has blamed his recent...
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations brought to you by Miller Lite. Great taste, 96 calories, available for delivery. Dan, I turned on my TV this past Saturday and saw something I hadn't seen in a while. I proceeded to watch it and gamble on it and was 1-3 headed into the Hawaii game. Whenever I was down, I put it on the rainbows. And Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, college football is back.
Hell yeah.
Billy, why are you
They
shaking
covered.
your head? No. Yeah, they did cover. I thought that you usually bet Hawaii only when they were at home in the chasing game.
Well, because last week he's talked to Billy Walters, who had a book that came out about Phil and his gambling addiction and all the problems. And Billy told us about the time he spent in jail and all this stuff. And he specifically told Stugotz it's no way to gamble if you're gambling Hawaii when you're down, betting everything just to make it back. Like, that's how you have a gambling problem and you'll always lose.
Don't listen to him.
I made it back. I felt alive. I love that bet. I'll always take Hawaii.
Put it on the poll, Billy.
Never bet against them.
Why does Vanderbilt exist in football?
Vandy.
Whoa, hold up. They're back.
The Commodores?
Hell yeah.
Really?
They won SEC games last year.
They did. Speaking of back, hey, Dan. Taylor Heineke is a Falcon. The Green Lizard. Corey Davis, odd time to retire. Really, he's got a quarterback finally. Thank you. Look says it all. Notre Dame, you want to impress me? Beat Navy in a fight. Jesus, this soccer never stops. There's always more soccer.
There is.
When does it end?
It doesn't.
According to all of them, there are no actual seasons or games that mean anything at any particular time, so it's just a year-round thing.
All right. Has anyone else submitted a talent fee for Lebo's celebration of life? COL.
I have not.
Yeah. Did you? What's wrong? What happened there? Chris, I told you to take that out. So no.
It doesn't appear. It appears that you're the only one.
Headline: Sam Darnold wins QB2 battle. Lance in limbo. Dan, you know what the L in Trey Lance stands for?
I do not.
Really?
Loser? Is that what you
I mean, it just said limbo. I mean,
okay.
Good guess, but no, it stands for bust.
That doesn't make any sense.
Thought you would follow along there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's all right, you're rusty. By the way, I love a good QB2 battle. Noah Eagle replacing Jack Collinsworth on the broadcast. You know what the N in Navy and Notre Dame stands for, Dan?
I do not.
Nepotism. Also, why doesn't anyone criticize Kyle Shanahan for the Lance pick? Donald Trump, masterclass on being evil. Brock Purdy, that's why he doesn't get criticized. He made up for it with Brock Purdy. He did.
I think that they can play with whoever their quarterback is, and that one can't play. And I think somehow we are allowing Shanahan the gift of an obvious failure and bust, one of the most calamitous decisions ever made. You can overcome it because you find quarterbacks in the 7th round, because anybody can play quarterback for you except for Trey Lance.
Deserves some criticism. Hey, Lionel Messi, pick up someone your own size. Josh Jacobs announced he's back. Had no idea he was gone. Welcome back. Spain. Odd way to celebrate winning the World Cup. The rare World Cup celebration that includes a sloppy kiss, backstabbing, and everyone getting fired. This is crazy. It really is. It's one of the craziest stories ever. And now the mom of the Spanish soccer boss has locked herself in a church. She's on a hunger strike. I'm serious. Read up on it.
I don't think you have the facts there.
There's no way those are the real details, right?
Check it.
I'll check.
Real details. Real what? Deets. You know, I had Lewis in my headset at the same time as that was coming out, and, you know, I don't know. Anyway, Matt Corral can scoot.
You were right about the church. She's
Thank
locked
you.
in there. According to CBS News. I trust him.
Yep, she's locked in a church.
I'll take the L on that one.
LaMichael Perrine, Kansas City Chief. Also, keep an eye on him. After playing there for 12 seasons, I'll never be able to look at Sam Hartman and not see him in a Wake Forest jersey. The Deeks, Kenyon Drake, Colts. So is Brashard Perryman. You thought that guy was going to be great, right?
Wait a minute. Didn't Drake just get cut?
By the Colts?
Didn't he just get cut?
I don't know. Yesterday he was on the Colts.
Are you sure that Kenyon Drake is a Colt?
Check
He
the
was
box
released.
score. Really? That's too bad.
23 hours ago.
Huh. Bad game?
You told me to take that one out too, my bad.
Yeah, I did.
Sounds like the Colts took him out. Can't say cut him.
I got it. Jamison Crowder, New York Giant, I think.
And now your confidence is shaken?
Sam Hartman, KG Vet. Damian Williams, Raider. Sam Hartman, aging like a fine wine. You know you played college football for a long time when the announcer says there isn't anything Sam Hartman hasn't seen.
In college football or just in life? Like he's seen everything? He's reached the end of the internet?
Yes. It's ridiculous. He's been in college longer than I think Justin Herbert's been in the NFL. Think about that.
He's older than Tyler Hero.
What? Tip of the cap to Bob Barker, top 5 game show host of all time. Number 5, Bob Barker. Number 4, Mike Greenberg.
Hold on a second. You gotta wait for the
Read him.
Greenberg.
Greeny, yeah. Number 3, Scott Rogowski.
I saw a sad documentary about HQ.
I saw that too.
Did you
I saw
feel
it
bad?
at CNN.
Well, I felt bad for him when he's just running like a memorabilia
clothing store,
shop
yeah.
now.
He had a run, though.
He's got a vintage clothing store out in California somewhere, and you looked at him and he like dressed up for the interview, like, oh my god, like he's in his suit, like look at this guy, he's all cleaned up like HQ, and then they show him kind of disheveled in his vintage clothing store
Called
in
Quiz
California.
Daddies, I believe.
It made me sad, that documentary as well. Number 2.
Richard Dawson. Number 1, the great Howie Schwab. Here comes the Brew Crew. I thought John Isner would play forever. You see that?
Yep.
Retired.
Sad.
Thought he would serve forever.
Well, he could if he wanted to.
He should be like a relief pitcher.
He's like Forrest Gump who just stopped running one day. He could serve like that for the rest of time.
You bring him in for a tiebreaker?
No one can hit that serve.
No one. Anthony Richard. What? Anthony Richardson. You know, Chris, here I'm debating whether to read this Spanish soccer line because you didn't proofread these, and I don't know if I should read it. So that's what's happening there. Okay? Anthony Richardson is a man. Cody Pickett.
Billy, what are you looking at here?
I thought the line was actually in Spanish, and he was hoping that Chris would correct it for him, which I was confused by.
Well, you wrote something in Spanish that you expected, Chris?
I wrote something about the Spanish soccer boss relating him to Richard Dawson, and I wasn't certain if I should read it.
Chris, what happened to the music there? And more to the point, what happened in the last segment where you just petered out, shouted Derek Jeter, and didn't tell us anything else
Thank you.
to end
We're
the
up against the
segment?
clocks. I was saying the coolest thing Jeter ever did was the flip
But
play.
all you said
against
was
the Oakland.
Jeter.
Because we were up against it. I looked up
But why'd you say it?
because I thought I had time. Looked up, saw 1 second left, so I just said hard number count. Not my best moment. Let's keep it moving. I'm glad we brought it back here, though. We
I
were
thought
really.
you were doing the Jeter into the stands play.
Nah, that was look at me. He could have stopped.
That was way cooler than the toss.
No, the toss was so cool. He's not even there. That's not even his backup. Which is what a play.
Dan, while you were gone, the Yankees fans want Mattingly and Jeter to run things.
It's the best timeline.
You love that? Sam Howell. Like what I see.
I've liked what I've seen since North Carolina.
He's good, man. George Pickens. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Everyone is saying that about him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. If I'm Ryan Tannehill, I'd be nervous. Chargers quarterback Easton Stick should be playing baseball. Right?
That's a perfect baseball
Thank
name.
you.
You're so right. They
The
put him in the wrong
perfect
sport.
baseball. I know.
That's such a shame.
Easton Stick.
They
It
really
is good.
shortchanged that
It's-
kid getting to the NFL.
Yeah.
It's redundant even, right? Because Easton, it's not
Whatever that
just
means.
it's not just stuck. It's not just stick, right? Easton is a baseball bat maker, correct?
Yes. That's why I said it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have just been stick.
You get it. You do.
Could have just been stick.
Right. Stick Michaels.
Not useful. Not a useful reference. Referencing a Yankees general manager
You opened up the stick door. Though.
from the 1980s.
If you Google Stick Michaels, nothing comes up. It's just craft sticks at Michaels.
That's how old he is.
That's how old you are. It's not. He's dead. I think he's dead.
No way.
$50.
I don't even have a way
Let
to
me
Google
see.
it.
We've got a risk of a $50 fine.
What's his actual name? I can't find him.
Gene Michaels. Stick.
Gene Michael.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm waiting. Hold
It's a $50 possible fine here if he's not dead.
This is big.
He died September 7th, 2017.
Wow. Way to go.
Stugotz, Gene Michael died.
Gone but not forgotten. Headline: Arizona State self-imposes bowl ban for 2023 season. It's too bad we won't be seeing the Sun Devils play in the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl.
I thought both your Boca Raton joke earlier and your Schwab joke earlier were a little too quick for you, and it turns out you'd already written them.
Sitting on them. Yep. Dan, we are just 3 days away from everyone not caring about soccer anymore. Amazingly, the guy who won the Republican debate was the guy who wasn't there because the next morning he had to turn himself into prison. We're all going to hell. Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is sponsored by BetterHelp. It's important to take some time to reflect on what truly matters to you and what you're passionate about. Identifying your core values can help guide you towards making decisions that align with your authentic self. Whether you're dealing with decisions around career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate life, so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Finding your way in life is a journey, and it's normal to experience setbacks and doubts along the way. Be patient and kind to yourself as you navigate through uncertain times. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/DLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DLB.
Dan Le Batard.
Mike, Marty Schottenheimer passed away.
Stugotz.
Why do you sound so happy? How did you say that?
Yeah, you're very excited.
That was
about
I was wrong tone.
I was not excited. I was
Unbelievable.
I was merely pointing out that a Browns legend had passed away.
Hold on. That was unbelievable.
Marty Schottenheimer died.
Hold on.
And maybe the greatest coach to never win a Super Bowl.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's just settle down. Let's all settle down.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Ronan Farrow, who is often a guest around here, has done a documentary for HBO. You can see it on Max about the dying of local newspapers. Every single week in America, on average, 2 local newspapers die. More than 2,500 of them have closed since 2005. By 2025, the U.S. is on track to have lost 1/3 of its newspapers, 1/3 in the 20 years since Facebook became Facebook. I don't need to tell you that Wall Street has chewed up journalism, and there are real dangers involved to democracy when things like this and checks and balances are destroyed. Eric Meyer is joining us now, and he's the editor-in-chief. He's joining us from the editor-in-chief's office at the Record in Marion, Kansas. And I don't know if you saw this, Stugotz, but the police department that his paper was reporting on basically did stuff that you don't expect to happen in a democracy, where they raided his office and I think took the computer he's joining us on now. Eric, thank you for joining us. I saw a piece in the Washington Post here about some of these details. Walk me through the day of, I guess it was August 11th. Can you explain to us what happened?
Explain? I still am having trouble explaining it. I can tell you what happened. A simultaneous raid, something, you'd expect for the Medellin drug cartel, involving every police officer in the eastern half of Marion County. They even brought some extras in that day, descended upon our newsroom, my 98-year-old mother's home, and the home of the vice mayor of Marion. And we stood around waiting. They threw the people out of the newspaper office while they searched it. They let my mother stay in her house, but I don't know exactly what they did with the vice mayor, but they searched it for evidence of documents that we had obtained from a source that we'd actually told them we had obtained it from the source. We told him where it was. So did the vice mayor. The vice mayor even sent him a copy of it. There was, in fact, a physical copy of it sitting right here on my desk next to the computer that was seized. They didn't take it. So we've never been quite sure why they decided that they needed to raid our office. The document that had been given to us by a source came off of a public website that the people operating it, the state of Kansas, say anyone's free to access. There's no limitations on it. But we spent 3 hours or so being searched and then having our computers seized. We're still trying to get back data. They cloned one of our hard drives and part of our network, 17 gigabytes of data that they still have custody of that we're trying to get back from them, in addition to a whole bunch of photographs they took. Among other things, my mother said they photographed my bank statement, which I don't quite know why.
Billy, what are you laughing about back there?
Well, they just, in the raid, they seem to have maybe injured the balloon behind you that's kind of just deflating slowly going up and down. Yeah. Was it your birthday? Happy birthday.
Like a week ago, right?
It was on Wednesday of last week.
What I thought.
It looks like that. It looks like the sad birthday balloon from last week.
Yes,
It looks like
it's the
struggling.
sad birthday balloon, exactly.
Juju, put on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Is 5 days too long to have a birthday balloon still in your office at Le
Yes,
Batard
it
Show?
is.
He's been through a lot,
Definitely.
Dan. I mean, come on.
It's been a week, Dan.
What do you attribute? Can you take us through some of the backstory on how it is that this happened? Like, obviously, you weren't expecting this, but
No.
What were they trying to accomplish?
Well, that's a good question. We'd offered to help them, and in fact, they knew where we'd gotten the document from. The vice mayor got it from the same place we did, and she told him. So we don't know why they're searching us. They never searched the person who, in fact, no one even from law enforcement even spoke to that person until last Thursday, and that was the Kansas Bureau of Investigation coming in to try to figure out what the heck was going on here. They didn't talk to us. As I said, we sent them a note saying we've got this document. We don't plan to use it because it was really a squabble in a divorce case that had some relevance because the person involved hadn't had a driver's license legally for 14 years and was asking for a liquor license, which is why the vice mayor got involved. She was questioning whether it ought to be investigated. The city administrator, a week before the raid, sent out an email to the mayor saying, we've decided this police department's not going to do anything about this. The mayor and the police chief met, and then suddenly we and the vice mayors were raided. It's interesting that, the mayor and the police chief, neither one of them like us very much. The police chief doesn't like us because we'd been doing some research on him and his past critics of his performance in the past. He left a $110,000 a year job to go to a $60,000 a year job here. And the reason was, and he finally admitted this, that he was being demoted for making sexually inappropriate actions toward a subordinate. He had denied that earlier, and we had not run our story, but we had all the research from it. It's on one of the computers that got seized. And the mayor has made no question about the fact that he doesn't like us, nor does he like the vice mayor. So it's kind of interesting. You don't raid the place that got the information. You raid the place that received it from that person, the two places, and you already knew it because we disclosed it to him already. And said, we don't see any follow up here, but if you want follow up, let us know and we'll talk to you. And they didn't talk to us.
Eric, this is a small town. It's under 2,000 people. How many police officers came in, and did you know all of them?
There were 7 altogether. The entirety of the Marion police force, except for one officer who quit that week and went to work for a different town. And they even brought in a part-time officer in addition for the entirety of the Marion police force, plus 3 sheriff's deputies. And at that time of day, that's usually the number that are on duty for the whole county.
And most of these people, do you not? Because it's a small town.
Well, one of the people is next door neighbor. And he was down at the record office. He later went up, I think, to my mother's house. I ended up getting down to the record. I was with her when they first came in. She tried to rationally talk to the 2 of them that were there for an hour and a half, just waiting. And then when 5 more came in and sort of took over her house, she became a little frustrated with them and spoke up about it. And she got very upset with them, and in fact, very upset just in general. She wouldn't eat, she wouldn't sleep, she wouldn't do anything, and she died the next day. And sort of a broken heart syndrome that she'd spent. She still worked for the paper. She worked every week, 1 day a week, assembling these, the column of, 15 years ago, 30 years ago, 45 years ago, people did these things popular in small towns. She hadn't been able to actually write it for the past year because of some vision problems, but she'd work with me and I'd read it to her and she'd decide what we were going to put in the column. But prior to that, till she was 97, she did everything herself. And she's a very strong-willed woman and, nobody even dared to edit her copy. I mean, she was very careful about it. So, but she got very frustrated. And then they took all our computers away. So took her computer, took her router, took my laptop, took my cell phone, took my computer at work, took our server, took our backup disks, took 2 of our reporters' computers, took their cell phones, injured one of the reporters grabbing the cell phone from her hand, and then took the vice mayor's computer and cell phone as well.
Eric, I am so sorry about your mother. You believe that this ended her life. You believe that the agiata of this affected her.
Certainly contributed to it, and I will say that the coroner, who had previously been her family physician for several years, even noted this in the coroner's death report.
Do you have any precedent that you can think of for something like this in this country that you've heard of?
Well, there was a case way back in the 1980s at the Stanford Daily, and as a result of that case, the federal law was changed to say that by and large, you don't issue search warrants for news organizations. You subpoena them, give them a chance to have a hearing, and then they can argue one way or the other whether their material should be released. But other than that, no, the idea of a raid. In fact, when I was talking to our lawyer right afterward, he says, "What kind of libel insurance do you have?" And I said, "Well, I gave him the company." And he says, "Good, because there's a provision in there for newsroom seizures." And I said, "There is?" It happens so rarely that we'd never even noticed that there was a provision in the contract. I was talking to the insurance people the other day, and they said, this is the first time they've ever had to, follow through on this claim. It's unprecedented for them. So it is a largely unprecedented thing in the United States. I taught for 26 years at the University of Illinois, taught journalism before I retired to this is my retirement hobby, I guess. But I had a student from Egypt who, this kind of stuff happened in Egypt all the time. This was a way of intimidating news organizations. And in fact, the 2 of us did a paper for a scholarly conference on what it did to journalism as a result of that, making journalism very timid and afraid to report almost anything as a straight out fact. They just, little hints of, instead of there's an bomb explosion in town, people heard a loud sound, and like 2 hours later, fire trucks were seen driving toward the loud sound. Incremental reporting was the way they get around it. And I could see that chilling effect happening in the United States. And as Dan mentioned early on, Wall Street has killed journalism in the form of newspapers in the United States. I've often joked that my little newspaper here in Marion, Kansas will be one of the 10 largest media companies in the United States, not because we're going to expand, but there won't be 9 others before long. It will just be all some chain that has sold their real estate, got rid of their reporters, fills the paper with junk, and as a result, the public doesn't know anything about what's going on. And it kind of becomes a scene from Pleasantville. Everybody goes into black and white and everything's just pleasant.
Eric, thank you for being on with us. I'm sorry we badgered you about what should have been a celebratory balloon. I apologize on behalf of our show.
Don't worry about it. I just had the incoming mayor was in here and it was batting him in the face. And I thought, well, maybe we'll let it hang around for that purpose.
Well, happy birthday.
Well, in fact, we can watch you take it down now and just ceremonially we can be done with it. There we go.
Let it go, man.
Stab it with a pair of scissors.
Let's see how we do this here. And this right here.
I don't know. You
this is
have a valve on it.
It's like in the helium, maybe.
let's
Yeah,
see.
suck in the helix. You can hear your voice. Yeah, it's funny, high voice.
He's got a great voice. He's got a great broadcast.
It'd be funny, really high pitched.
He's got a great.
He's going for
I don't know that I can
audio
get this.
system. He is trying to help us here.
Yeah.
We're gonna see him. We're gonna see. We've got to ride this joke out to see if.
Wow, that's quite the knife.
Yeah, that's just, whoa,
He's got everything.
Christ.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
here we go.
Yes.
Hello.
Oh, my God, I love you. More.
Thank you, Dan.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is sponsored by BetterHelp. It's important to take some time to reflect on what truly matters to you and what you're passionate about. Identifying your core values can help guide you towards making decisions that align with your authentic self. Whether you're dealing with decisions around career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate life, so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Finding your way in life is a journey, and it's normal to experience setbacks and doubts along the way. Be patient and kind to yourself as you navigate through uncertain times. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/DLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DLB.